Hey kiddos, happy Friday. Hope you guys are feeling good. Hope you guys are ready for a nice 3-day weekend. It's Memorial Day, so hopefully you get a little extra time to relax. I'm particularly excited about today's lesson because I noticed from your reactions yesterday this story gets a little crazy and it's really worth thinking about together. So I wish we were talking about it in person, but we'll have to do the next best thing. Um, so, guided question today, we're still exploring how the ones who walk away from Omelas explore utopia and dystopia, and what is the text saying to us about happiness. Our big task today is going to be to review or talk about part two, and we're going to do some reflections based on what we read as well. Okay, so part two was the 3 paragraphs I sent you yesterday. There's a very short part 3 to the story as well that we'll finish up with next week. Okay. So let's take a look. Um, in the story, they're starting with what I gave you yesterday. Paragraph 1 of the story still takes us through the citizens of Omelas are in the festival. And Ursula Le Guin ends that paragraph saying, "Do you believe? Do you accept the festival, the city, the joy? No? Then let me describe one more thing." So, once again, remember, she's talking directly to us or to you, the reader, and she's asking you these questions, like similar to yesterday when she was asking you, what is a utopia? What would you put in a utopia? What makes everyone happy? But so now she's asking us, do you believe it? Do you believe in this city full of full happiness? And then things go a little bit crazy. So I know you read this yesterday, but I'm going to read it out loud just for the effect because I think it's pretty powerful. It's a long paragraph. I broke it up over 2 slides. So just follow along. In a basement under one of the beautiful public buildings of Omelas, or perhaps in the cellar of one of its spacious private homes, there is a room. It has one locked door and no window. A little light seeps in dustily between the cracks in the boards, secondhand from a cobweb window across the cellar. In one corner of the little room, a couple of mops with stiff, clotted, foul-smelling heads stand near a rusty bucket. The floor is dirt, a little damp to the touch, as cellar dirt usually is. The room is about 3 paces long and 2 wide, a mere broom closet or a disused tool room. In the room, there is a child sitting. It could be a boy or a girl. It looks about 6, but actually it is nearly 10. It is feeble-minded. Perhaps it was born defective, or perhaps it has become imbecile through fear, malnutrition, and neglect. It picks its nose and occasionally fumbles vaguely with its toes or genitals as it sits hunched in the corner farthest from the bucket and 2 mops. It is afraid of the mops. It finds them horrible. It shuts its eyes, but it knows the mops are still standing there, and the door is locked, and nobody will come. The door is always locked, and nobody ever comes, except that sometimes the child has no understanding of time or interval. Sometimes the door rattles terribly and opens, and a person or several people are there. One of them may come in and kick the child to make it stand up. The others never come close, but peer in at it with frightened, disgusted eyes. The food bowl and the water jug are hastily filled. The door is locked. The eyes disappear. The people at the door never say anything. But the child, who has not always lived in the tool room and can remember sunlight and its mother's voice, sometimes speaks. "I will be good," it says. "Please let me out. I will be good." They never answer. The child used to scream for help at night and cry a good deal, but now it only makes a kind of whining, "Ee-ah, ee-ah," and speaks less and less often. It is so thin there are no calves to its legs, its belly protrudes, it lives on a half bowl of cornmeal and grease a day, it is naked. Its buttocks and thighs are a mass of festered sores as it sits in its own excrement continually. Whoa! I guarantee most of you did not expect that. Um, Holy cow. Every time I read it, I'm almost shocked. We go from this happy city festival of Omelas where the people are all just absolutely joyful and happy 100%. And then we get to this. Huge shift in the story. Short stories are kind of known for that sometimes. Often there's not a lot of space to work with, right? It's not like a novel. So things shift fast. And Ursula Le Guin really smacks us in the face with this. So just what the heck, right? So we have to go back and talk about this. And so we go to the basement under Omelas, right? And what's happening there is the city of Omelas keeps one child. It goes nameless. Notice the repetition of it, it, it. We don't know whether it's a boy or a girl. We don't know where the child is from or at what age it was brought there. But the child is there, living in its own filth, living dirty, ignored, given scraps of food, kept in darkness. Whoa, totally disturbing. And like I said, unexpected, really hits you. It's kind of an amazing thing in a story when that can do that to you, really shake you out of what you were previously thinking or expecting. So as we go back and you read over paragraph number 2, and you might want to take a look at it at the full version if you open up the copy of the story. My questions to you are, how does the mood change in the story here? And how does Le Guin's use of imagery make you feel? Go ahead back and take a look at the paragraph here for imagery, sights, smells, tastes, sounds, right? She fills it with the use of imagery to start to evoke emotions out of us. So go ahead and take a minute, consider the imagery, think about the overall mood, think about the shift from the previous few paragraphs, and then we'll move forward. Whoa. Once again, mind still blown as we move forward. And as we start to think about this child under Omelas, the question has to come up, well, what? Why? Why would they do this? You have this happy utopian society. Why on earth would they keep the child here? And in paragraph 3, we start to learn the answer. I'll read aloud. They all know it is there, all the people of Omelas. Some of them have come to see it. Others are content merely to know it is there. They all know that it has to be there. Some of them understand why, and some do not. But they all understand that their happiness, the beauty of their city, the tenderness of their friendships, the health of their children, the wisdom of their scholars, the skill of their makers, even the abundance of their harvest and the kindly weather of the skies, depend wholly on this child's abominable misery. So here's where the story really starts to go into that science fiction or kind of the realm where, we have to suspend our belief a little bit and enter into the world of the story where it becomes like science fiction, fantasy. Sometimes they call it speculative fiction, where we speculate, well, if there was a world like this. And what Le Guin is describing is this cause and effect relationship. So they're saying the citizens of Omelas, they, for some reason, know, we don't learn the whole backstory, but they have to put this child there in that basement, and they have to keep it there. And that is the source of everybody else's happiness. Once again, as of now, we don't have an opinion on it. Le Guin states all the citizens know, some of them know why, some of them don't, but they all understand that this has to happen for their society, for everybody else, for 99.9% of the people to be happy. So you kind of get this cause and effect relationship, right? Their whole society is based on this one thing that happens, and that grants them happiness. Once again, not a realistic scenario, but a science fiction kind of fantasy scenario. And Le Guin explores this a little bit further. So she explains why the child is there. When we get to paragraph 4, we really start to get in to be able to reflect on, well, what this means, how should we really think about this, and what questions are raised here. So I'll read aloud. This is usually explained to children when they are between 8 and 12, whenever they seem capable of understanding, and most of those who come to see the child are young people, though often enough an adult comes or comes back to see the child. No matter how well the matter has been explained to them, these young spectators are always shocked and sickened at the sight. They feel disgust, which they had thought themselves superior to. They feel anger, outrage, impotence, despite all the explanations. They would like to do something for the child, but there is nothing they can do. So this characterization is important here. It shows you that the citizens of Omelas aren't, they're not monsters. They feel shock. They feel disgust. They feel outrage. The word impotence means they feel helpless when they see this child, that they can't do anything. So they're not just like a bunch of terrible monsters with no feelings. They're human beings, right? I'll continue. If the child were brought up into the sunlight and out of that vile place, if it were cleaned and fed and comforted, that would be a good thing indeed. But if it were done, in that day and hour, all the prosperity and beauty and delight of Omelas would wither and be destroyed. Those are the terms, to exchange all that goodness and grace of every life in Omelas for that single small improvement, to throw away the happiness of thousands for the chance of the happiness of one. That would be to let guilt within the walls indeed. The terms are strict and absolute. There may not even be a kind word spoken to the child. So lots of moods and questions and things going through your mind there. But we start to see the contradiction, the reason that nobody's doing anything here, right? That one child stays miserable and everybody else gets to stay happy, and everybody understands this. So this raises so many questions, right? Is this, we can even go back to some of our old language, is this ethical to make one suffer for the happiness of everybody, right? What would you do? You might feel badly as well, but would you be willing to live in a society like this where everybody is happy and only one has to suffer? And really what I think this brings up is like a conflict of human versus self, or person versus self, right? Because there's an inner choice here about how to think and how to feel, right? Every individual in that society has to accept this. They have to be okay with this child suffering. And, if you go back and remind yourself of just how badly that child is treated, everyone makes the decision in this society that, okay, here is what we will do so the rest of us can be happy. So you have to think about that. There's an internal struggle there of, well, what is right and what's wrong in that situation. And once again, this is one of the better things about science fiction stories or books or novels or movies, raising these types of questions in our mind. Okay? So, wow. A really intense part of the story today and part of the reading. In terms of reflection questions today, we're not done the story yet. There's still some more things to think about, but is Omelas a utopia or a dystopia? I'd like you to consider. And does the story of Omelas reflect our society, so the real world, in any way? Can you take this story as a metaphor for anything out in our world? I think there's some possibilities there. Over here, I'd also like you to, make a list of themes. We have a couple, happiness, utopia. I want you to extend that list a little bit. I attached our universal themes list. Just make some connections. Talk about one or two other themes that you think this story is exploring outside of the idea of happiness and the idea of utopia. Okay, so sorry if our reading was a little shocking over the past couple of days, but these readings kind of like a good, twist in a movie, or, a twist in some book or something else. This story is very interesting for how it is able to change like that and kind of evoke shock and new thinking in us. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying it. We'll finish up with this early next week, and then we will start our next story, which I also think you guys will like. Okay? Have a great weekend. In 3, 2, 1, 0. Finish up your work and make sure you are meeting those goals you set for the end of the marking period and the end of 9th grade. I'll talk to you guys soon.